Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar with his long-awaited album, following up Damn 5 years ago and his final album with Top Dog Entertainment. Kendrick Lamar, Kung Fu Kenny, he's back. I don't feel like I've talked about him that much on this channel, considering how much of a big fan I am of his, but considering I only started this channel 5 years ago myself and did review Damn at the time, there's not been a great deal of music to discuss since then from Kendrick. He's done the odd feature here and there with Baby Keem. He's obviously given us that Black Panther soundtrack, which honestly isn't really something I ever go back to, aside from a couple of tracks that were really good at the time. But he's, yeah, you know, he's been quiet. There's not been a whole lot to say with Kendrick, aside from, you know, the decade end lists that I did gushing over his albums. It's been pretty quiet on that front. But if you are new to this channel, it's just worth saying that yes, I am a big fan of this guy. I have high expectations for this guy, and while I was disappointed with Damn, and I don't really rate Section 80 that much either, Untitled Unmastered I thought was pretty good, but I don't necessarily love it as much as others. I still think of this guy as being one of the best rappers of our generation. At this point, you could even say all time, because I think there's been enough time that's passed between albums to maybe start saying such a bold claim. And let's be honest, Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly are fantastic in their own right anyway. So yes, he's given us some amazing work over the years. And of course, with him dropping The Heart Part 5 right before this album, the hype was real for me, because I thought that was a fantastic track leading into the album, and the best Heart part so far for me. That Marvin Gaye sample got me real good, and his rapping on there was absolutely relentless. So yes, I was definitely excited to see what he was going to do with his album. And, well, honestly, it's good. It's good. I like this quite a lot. I don't necessarily think this is going to be a review that people are going to be like, wow, he came through with everything I wanted to hear him say. Because I've seen the reaction to that Pitchfork review, and by God, by golly gosh, oh, I want to be measured and I want to be fair, and I want to, you know, I want the viewers to understand my reasoning for this album review, which isn't something I usually have to say before an album review, but given how big this artist is, you just kind of feel like everyone's going to be wanting, you know, to hear their own thoughts and opinions mimicked by reviewers, but it's not always going to be the case. And at the end of the day, I still think he's dropped a really good album here. I think there's lots of themes being tackled on this album. I don't necessarily think the themes come together in a united way, in a unified way, in the way he's done in the past with his albums. But having that expectation there to think there's going to be, you know, a thread pulled through the entire narrative, and there's going to be a revealed poem at the end and all that kind of stuff, just like To Pimp a Butterfly, is silly, because no artist would replicate doing that, and I don't expect him to do that. But the themes being tackled on this album are pretty fantastic, and the way he tackles them is what makes them pretty fantastic, because he does not just opt for a very surface level approach to these tracks. He goes deeper. He really digs up the roots, which is what you expect from Mr. Kung Fu Kenny. The opening track I think is really good, with the tackling grief and how everyone handles grief differently. I thought that was a pretty clever way to sort of just kind of go into something that many people experience throughout their lives. In fact, everyone will probably experience that at some point. And the way he kind of just kind of, you know, dibble dabbles through the different ways you can tackle that kind of thing. And then the beat switch as well, the beat change. Oh my God, this man is on some drum and bass shit somehow. It's such a great opening track. It's so unexpected. And honestly, I would say some of these tracks do feel quite unexpected. And this is what I like about this album as well, was that for me, Damn was trying some different things and at times failed almost miserably. I'm looking at you, Loyalty. I do not defend loyalty, and I will not hear the defense for loyalty ever. But, you know, you could see he was trying something different. He wasn't just giving us the jazz rap again. He was giving us something new. It personally, for me, didn't work. But this time around, he's doing it again. He's not giving us the same thing he's done before. N95, you know, giving us that Baby Keem type of beat, which honestly works really well and reminds me of the fact that that last Baby Keem album didn't work for me because Baby Keem himself wasn't carrying the songs. But when you've got someone carrying the track, my God, it works. It's honestly such a dead ringer for something from that Baby Keem album, and the beat, oh my God, is so similar to the stuff that was on that album. And his cadence switches up about 47 times. It's insane. He sounds fantastic over this. It reminds me of something like Backseat Freestyle. You know, one of the hype tracks that you get from Mr. Kung Fu Kenny, and this is that. And again, it isn't exactly an ordinary beat for him. It isn't exactly a track you'd usually expect, but when it works, it works. And this is what I'm looking for from Kendrick. Some versatility, but also killing it, and he does. And flipping over to the second side of the album, because this is a double album, of course, 18 tracks, 9 either side. You've got Count Me Out kicking it off as well. And once again, that chorus kicks in and that kind of like bass starts to rumble and the beat comes in and it snaps so hard. And the way he's coming over the beat as well. I love when you get me out. I love when you get me out. Oh, it's so catchy, man. But again, it feels new for him just with the way the track progresses, the kind of hard snapping beat coming through. Really, really impressive. And, you know, braggadocious in a way, sort of like, you know, in a cheeky way of, you know, don't ever count me out because it'll just rumble me and take me further. It sounds like some kind of like, you know, YouTube video that some football fan, some like Cristiano Ronaldo stan would make. You know, he's down in the dumps. He's not scored in like 5 games. He gets a hat-trick against Tottenham. And that's the video. That'll be something you'll see on football Twitter or something like that. Purple Hearts as well, offering something different prior to this track with a bit more of an R&B twist to it. You got Summer Walker bringing in some lovely vocals, by the way. I thought she sounded sublime on this track. The only thing I wasn't too keen on was the way Kendrick kept saying, baby, baby, me. He does enter that like nasally upper register every now and then, and I've always been a fan of it. I've spoken to some people that I've known in real life that hate the way he does that kind of like wee like that. You know what I'm talking about when I say that. But I've always thought it was cool. And I like the way he can switch up his cadence so much within one song. It sounds like 18 different artists coming together on one track when you realize it's actually just one guy. It's quite fun. But on this track, he just goes too far with it, man. Baby, baby. I guess continuing the negatives musically, I've got to say, man, I cannot find a reality where I'm ever going to want to listen to We Cry Together. And I feel like anyone, you know, who's heard this album is going to be very much on either side with this. And there's going to be always, you know, people that say, no, it sounds so good, it's great, it's got all this narrative behind it and stuff like that. I just don't want to listen to this Eminem type shit, man. Like, it's so much of a dead ringer for like, you know, Kim or something like that. And it also has like that with it, also mixed in with some like Ice Cube, It's a Man's World, if you've ever heard that track as well. That kind of like, you know, male, female going up against each other. If you kind of like got those two tracks, you know, mushed them together, you'd kind of end up with this somewhere along the lines. Just like, why? I just don't want to listen to this, man. Like, there's some really, there's some really odd things that pop up as well when she says you're the reason Trump got elected. I mean, I know it's supposed to be an argument where, like, you know, two people are just firing things that they don't really mean at one another. I just, like, who wants to listen to a domestic? I'm not here for listening to domestics. I just don't want to hear this. But, you know, aside from that, you know, it is only one track within 18 tracks, so it's not indicative of the whole album. Because when you've got tracks like this in the midst of tracks like Father Time, which is sensational, oh my days, sensational, you just can't deny a song like this. Sampha's hook as well, Sampha's chorus. It is unforgivable how little this man has provided us with music over the years. This man first came onto the scene in the early 2010s and has done so many features. And in that time, he's done one album. And he sounds fantastic every time you hear him on a song. On the Drake songs that he was on all those years ago, he was great. on his album. He is fantastic. It's a great album. We needed more of him, man. Tracks like this just make me want more. But the theme, I think, is fantastic here too. Switching the idea of daddy issues into this, you know, male perspective of not having a father around, and how that can impact you and impact your life and kind of set you on a downward spiral, and there's not really any kind of way of getting back from it. And yes, sure, you can't make excuses for everything in life, but those things have, you know, a massive impact that just permeate and can't really escape you. And it's hard to reshape your character after going through those kinds of things, because those things shape your character. Not having that father figure around shapes your character. I just think the way he talked about this was fantastic. I always like tracks like this, and the way he spun the gender roles of daddy issues too. I mean, yeah, this was really impressive. Super interesting as well, with the big debate at the moment going on about how Kodak Black comes right after this, and how people are like not really keen on Kodak being featured on this, with all the allegations that have been made against him and all the things that, you know, he's done and the kind of person he is. And I've seen many interesting you know, theories and many interesting insights. David Rowe particularly had a really interesting way of putting this into words. But yeah, I mean, you can understand why. I mean, of course, that kind of impact has left a mark on someone like Kodak Black too, who is famous, but has his own major flaws and things like that. The only thing I'd say, well, not just flaws. I mean, I can't just leave it at he has major flaws. If he has done those things, they are inexcusable. But I think what Kendrick was trying to do is he was trying to, you know, showcase a person who has gone through that exact thing, and putting him right after that track, I think, was essentially what he was trying to do. The only thing I'd say is that it just feels like he's there, and you kind of have to read between the lines as to why he's there, because it's not like his verses have anything that insightful to say. I mean, I'm not trying to say, you know, oh, he should be sat here telling everyone how sorry he is for the things he's done or anything like that. But I just thought there would be a bit more addressed on that track. It's just kind of like having him there for the sake of being there. I don't know. And speaking of other controversial things that live within this universe of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppas, is the track Anti-Diaries, where he is saying a word multiple times that I'm not going to say, but you know the word he's saying. He obviously drops the F word multiple times on this track. But this is another tricky conversation. I see both sides of the conversation, just like I do with Kodak. You can see what Kendrick is doing, but you can also see why people would critique it. And I know it sounds exactly like I'm sitting on the fence here and not taking a side, but it's literally the perfect example of how you can just see all sides to something and not necessarily argue with anyone telling them they're wrong. I'm not going to tell people that they aren't allowed to be offended hearing that word in this song. So what else could I say, really? It's not my place to say you can't be offended hearing that word. You know, it's not a word that has any impact on me personally, and I don't necessarily have a history with hearing that word and how you know what I mean. I'm not here to be a voice of reason for people who are LGBTQ, etc. Like, I can't tell people how to feel about that. But I can also see why Kendrick's done it. You know what I mean? If you're not happy, okay. If you are happy, okay, fair enough. But also understand why people aren't. It's just one of those occurrences. But at the same time, I think what he's doing here is again quite impressive in the way he's trying to twist a narrative and just reflect on how, when you're younger, you don't necessarily see your shortcomings, but getting older, you look back and thinking, God, I used to say those words, and how you know, ignorant I was, and how this is someone directly in my life being impacted, and I just said things that I shouldn't have said. I do think the sentiment of the song is beautiful enough really to outweigh that, but at the same time you could argue, well, he could have said all that without saying that word. So yeah, I do truly understand that, but I do have to say I think the song is very impactful and beautifully written overall, to be honest. He has some really fantastic moments talking about how He, you know, is a man who's been placed as some kind of king, been placed on a pedestal. You know, Heavy is the head who wears the crown on the track Crown, of course. Yeah, he's done this before. I mean, there were elements of this on To Pimp a Butterfly, where he's just kind of touching on how he's this savior person who actually has a lot of pressure on him to do more, and yet he can't really find a way to do more, so he seeks help in someone else that he views as a savior, and then by the end the savior ends up not having an answer. So it all kind of comes full circle with a track like this, where he's once again just having this internal battle and trying to, you know, say to people, look, I ain't your savior either. They idolize and praise your name across the nation, tap the feed and nod their head in confirmation. You know, this just kind of obsessiveness of just following Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar is a man, the voice of all reason, who can fix everything. And I've always thought this kind of attitude is dangerous, even as fantastic as his albums have been before, and how brilliantly he words things. You know, you can't just view him as one single person that can change everything. It's so dangerous. You can't please everybody either, and he's been placed on a pedestal where he feels like he's got pressure on him to do so, and he says this. It's a really interesting track. I think it's a very nice somber beat going with it as well. And of course, I keep mentioning the word savior, but there is literally also a track called Savior as well that comes a few tracks after this. Future, Cole, LeBron James, Not Your Savior, and it's a crossover with the track Crown as well. And I've got to say, lyrically, my God, this second disc, I guess you could call it a disc, if anyone's even buying it as a disc anymore. It feels like a very outdated term, but the second album of this double album, lyrically, man, oh my days, he is hitting some high peaks for his career. Like he is hitting a peak right now. Like wow. These are the kinds of tracks I expect from Kendrick, and I don't want to place that expectation on him because it's a lot of pressure, and he obviously struggles to deal with the pressure, as he talks about so often in his songs on this album. But when he hits, man, he's got to understand he knows what he's doing, because like I say, Anti-Diaries, for its shortcomings and its flaws, is written beautifully. Crown, Savior, these are fantastically written tracks. And then I've got to mention Mother I Sober. Talking about, again, with Father Time, just kind of the impact that things can leave on you, the scars that can be left behind, the abuse that his mother felt, and, you know, how that impacted him growing up, and how his father wasn't really good, to be honest, in the way he's describing him. And then talking about the impact of slavery and how that's left its mark. There's just so much being tackled here in one song. This could be an album's worth of material. But the slavery impact seems to have, had that kind of impact in where people are burying their pain, or black people are burying their pain in, materialistic things. And that's the kind of view maybe people outside of black people view black people as. And then you've got the Beth Gibbons contribution as well. It's just absolutely stunning. The vocals here are sublime. Oh my goodness, wow, they are fantastic. Beautifully interwoven into the song. And then that voice of reason, that voice of faith, that voice of hope right at the end, talking about how they've, everyone who's listening, black people specifically, have broken the curse. They're you should be proud. The generational curse that is. Like, yeah, god damn, it's just all so beautifully put together. It's got to be up there, one of Kendrick's best songs ever. Like, god damn, he really killed it here. Wonderful moment. It's so powerful, and you don't even need me to tell you that at this point. It's just so good. But yeah, Mr. Morale, I want to say as well, might have the best beat on the album. This beat's so damn good. Ooh, it's so damn ooh. And I'm trying to think what it sounds like. It reminds me so much of something I can't quite picture, or can't quite make out what it is. The squelch to the beat of Silent Hill as well. Really like this track, the closing track Mirror as well. How he's talking about he's choosing himself. I guess just going forward, he just wants to focus on himself and not really think about everyone else. Placing their expectations on him, and placing him on a pedestal. At the end of the day, he's going to do what he wants to do because it is his life, and those expectations can dampen him at the end of the day. So yeah, unexpectedly, there's a lot to say good about this album, and while I might not be as positive as others, because I don't necessarily think some of the tracks are always that great, and I'm not that keen on We Cry Together, and there's just a few moments I'm not as big on that I would like to be, and I don't necessarily think, you know, it all comes together necessarily perfectly or anything like that, but as an album it runs really well. I think the beats generally are pretty good as well, some fantastic beats, not all the time amazing me, but he does rap over them pretty well. And to be fair, based on my first listen, quite a bit of this has grown on me as well, so you know, this is why first reactions aren't always great for me on this channel. He touches on so many impressive topics within one album. Musically, it's really good. Lyrically, like I say, is sublime at times. And yeah, there's just so much to like about this album, and I think, you know, with time I could see this growing on me more. With Damn, I was like, with time I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, but this could get better for me as time goes on, and I do hope it does. But for now, I'm going to go 7 out of 10. I'm going to go 7 out of 10. I think that's a fair score. I mean, it's a double album, there's 18 tracks, not every track hits for me. It's hard to get an album that long hitting on every front. There's always going to be something that I might not necessarily like as much. It is what it is. That's just how music is. You got a full album here, an hour and 10 minutes. It's a lot to take in. And over time, maybe this will hit me even harder. And maybe there'll be, you know, lyrics here and there that I didn't quite pick up on that'll hit me harder too, because that's the kind of thing Kendrick does. But for now, a very, very good album. And that is it. Thank you for watching as always. If you have any thoughts, tell me in the comments. I do apologize if there's background music flooding this video. I do apologize for that, but if you enjoy this video, thank you as always for watching, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Do have a good day, and goodbye.